After successfully bending the 1-inch steel into something that actually resembled a tow bar, next I had to somehow fix it onto the bottom beam of the front turning axle, which unfortunately meant disassembling the chassis again. But instead of taking all of it apart, I used the block and tackle to lift the top beam and all the rails up and out of the way so I could pull the bottom beam from underneath. I know this is dangerous. Oh. So one of the reasons I took this all apart is because when I first made this, I didn't make this hole big enough, so I can't get a socket onto this nut. So that's only finger tight, and what I need to do now that I've got a bigger drill bit, is enlarge this hole so I can get the socket down, and then I'm going to use a nylon nut. Hopefully that'll be the last time I do it. So drilling a hole like this is actually far more complicated than it sounds. Using this type of drill bit does not go well if the pilot hole is too big, as I experienced earlier in this build. In this case though, there isn't even a pilot hole, just empty space, which is a complete non-starter. However, my dad managed to dig out an old handle, which happened to be the perfect diameter of 27mm, so after putting wood in hole, which apparently in Yorkshire means shut the bloody door, and then cut the top off, which left me with material to drill the center point of the drill bit into. This has the potential to go horribly. Wish me luck. Not perfect, but it might work. Success. Thanks, Dad, for your help. With that little issue taken care of, it was on to making a system to attach the tow bar to the beam. There were 3 requirements. 1, it had to be strong enough to pull hundreds of kilograms up a gentle hill. 2, it had to be detachable, so no one can come along and easily steal the hut, God forbid. 3, it had to look good. Some of the options you can buy off the shelf look like this, which was the route I started going down. I even bought some eyelets to try and weld my own brackets. The problem with that, aside from the fact I've never welded in my life, are the screws or bolts you'd then use to attach it to the beam. They'd have to be pretty thin to go through these holes on the bracket, and anything that relies on cutting threads into the oak isn't reliable long term. What you really need is one big chunky bolt that goes all the way through the beam with a large washer and nut on the back side. Just like this, but rotated 90 degrees and twice the size. Simple? No. Finding a long enough galvanized bolt with a 1-inch eyelet was almost impossible. In fact, there was only one place I could find, which didn't even ship to France. Just another example of how building one-off custom things like this takes forever. But first I had to drill its corresponding holes on the beam, and instead of using fancy lasers and mirrors, I tried the old-fashioned way to drill straight, using a spotter. Yep.
Yep. That one better?
No, but it's good enough. So here are the super rare big boys in all their glory. Lovely chunky bits of metal which I believe have now been discontinued by the supplier. As you can see, the tow bar wasn't a great fit. In fact, the splay was too splayed, so I knew I'd have to reheat it and fix that, but that could wait. First, I cut both feet to the same length. Next, I drilled some more holes so I could push beta clips onto the feet to prevent the tow bar slipping out. Obviously, in its current state, that would never have happened, but I intended to fix that. The final hole, and it was a very good hole. All I have to do now is get all of that back on here. So this is where the tension started to be a real issue. Because of the outward force, the tow bar actually binded to the eyelet in a way that wouldn't release until I got some mechanical advantage from the straps. Thank God.
Yeah, it's not tense now.
To me a bit. Just give it a nudge. Yeah, it's going. Woo! At this point I went off camera to reset all the forge equipment back up so I could reheat the tow bar and unsplay it a touch, which went well, and as you can see the next fitting was much nicer. I need more washers. When I have a chance, I'm going to drill another hole on each foot to put another beta clip through and a couple of washers which will sandwich the eyelet and prevent this shunting action. But it was remarkable how little effort it takes to turn the bottom axle from this single hitch point, and this is still without grease. I don't know if it was obvious, but the last 2 days have been crazy. Yesterday morning, this was just a straight piece of steel. I leave tomorrow, and I'm not going to be here for 4 weeks. I hope I filmed it well. Let's see if it works tomorrow. So all that was left to do was drive it around a field and see if anything broke. Thankfully nothing did, but there's of course no weight on it. Also I wanted to get a shot of it in front of the Pyrenees because that is actually where it's going to live, on the other side of the mountains in Spain, but not yet. Anyway, I'm very happy with my quick detour into forging. It should do the job very nicely indeed. I did want to create a nice tie detail just below the tow hitch like this, but my blacksmithing isn't quite there yet. But the real test was actually still to come, the thing I'd been dreading since the first time I took the chassis out of the barn, getting it back in. For those of you who don't drive 4x4s, on some cars you can lock the differential so all the wheels rotate at the same speed. This is pretty much essential for driving off-road. But sometimes even though the shifter lever is in the lock position, the differential hasn't actually locked, so all the wheels continue to spin independently and you look like you don't know what you're doing, which isn't entirely wrong. So maybe the Landy could have pulled it in with ease, but when you expect to fail, you normally give up pretty quick.
Take this off. Yeah. Move the Land Rover in. Put a strap. Hello. Okay. Slowly.
In the next video, I'm going to be bending a different material, thin strips of oak laminated into the curved roof beams, so please make sure you're subscribed for that. Thanks very much.